In this episode, we speak with Anthony Perrotta, partner at PA Consulting. Anthony has more than 25 years of experience in sales leadership, FMCG, CPG, retail, and sustainability. He works with clients on growth strategy, sustainability, and regenerative economy initiatives that support progress beyond net zero goals. Anthony was recognized as one of the top 25 sustainability consultants and leaders for 2024. PA Consulting brings together experts in strategy, technology, and innovation to help clients transform and achieve lasting impacts across a wide range of sectors. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Top Consultant, a podcast featuring today's best consultants who advise and provide services to corporations, governments, nonprofits, and other organizations. Executives and key decision makers tune in to Top Consultant to identify the most knowledgeable and experienced consultants for their most important projects.
Tony, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
So you work in a very fascinating area and you've got an amazing professional background. We'll go through all of it. Maybe just to set the stage for the benefit of our audience, tell us what you focus on behalf of PA Consulting.
Sure. I'll start with the work that PA does generally, and then I can speak specifically about what my role is at the firm. So yes, of course, we are a management consulting firm. We do the critical strategy work that all businesses need to grow. But what really truly separates us, our superpower, if you will, is turning that work into outcomes. And we do that by harnessing a deep expertise in design, engineering, and science. What that looks like, our first client was Winston Churchill at the turn of the Second World War, helping with personnel and resource allocation. Since then, we've got on to do things like inventing the world's first disposable pregnancy test. We designed surgical robotics and have even helped harness the power of seaweed for packaging with the Earthshot winner at NOPLA. We're the only firm that combines, again, that design, engineering, and science in studios and tech centers around the world, tackling complex system-based problems. My personal remit at the firm is sustainability, and what I refer to as this notion of the regenerative economy. So in essence, of course, helping our clients around the world and governments get to net zero, but hopefully, and what is becoming more important, how might we go beyond net zero and create a beneficial impact? That is the key area that I focus on in my time here at PA.
And which sectors in particular do you spend the most time in?
So personally, I tend to do a lot of work in what we would consider consumer packaged goods or FMCG, health and life sciences, and a number of financial service providers as well.
That's a broad scope. There's many companies in the CPG space. One of the things that's always been, top of mind is like the amount of packaging that goes into these products. And sometimes this is a slightly different direction. It's a tangent where it's like the plastics, right? Like that's not good for human health. It's not good for the environment. But maybe if you could enlighten us with like a specific case, but like the type of work where you're truly helping not just the client, but the overall environment.
I can give a very specific case, thankfully, which is often not the case in the world of consulting. We tend to be handcuffed by confidentiality, but I have a case that is public that I can certainly share with your audience. So for a number of years, our clients have been approaching us saying, hey, look, how might we transition away from typically difficult to recycle materials or challenging materials? Yes, of course, including plastics, but heavyweight glass, polystyrene, etc. We had identified early on that the world of fiber and using plant-based material and paper, in essence, to replace those materials was a very rich and fertile area for us to go down, would be a lead horse in that race. As we explored the world of fiber, we came upon a technology known as dry molded fiber. One company in particular, Pulpac, Pulpac, based in Gothenburg, Sweden, had the intellectual property rights around that technology. And in essence, we're using plant-based fiber to replace plastics and find alternatives for all sorts of material. That in and of itself, super unique, a really unique way to approach this packaging problem, and in some cases, a product problem. What makes it even more special, if you will, is the approach that we've taken. So, in partnership with Pullpack, we realized that some of these challenges are so global in nature, no individual brand, company, or government would tackle it on their own. The two that we identified was first, how might we replace single-use plastic and heavyweight glass bottles? And second, how might we replace what are typically polystyrene or PVC-based blister packs in the world of tablets and confection? Instead of going and approaching a single client or even an industry, we approached multiple players across multiple categories, all in pursuit of that singular mission. So we've launched what we refer to as the Bottle Collective on one side and the Blister Collective on the other. We've been joined by brand names such as Diageo, Bayer, Haleon, Opella, Sanofi, Logoplast, and a large number of others, all combining their forces together in pursuit of this singular mission.
Now, I'm sure there's other areas that we could go into. When we think about, I guess, manufacturing broadly and, CPG obviously coincides with manufacturing. But are there other areas that you play in? You don't, I mean, not necessarily getting so specific into the details, but maybe just to shed some light on other areas you play in.
Broad paintbrush, we do a ton of work in waste to value. So how might of course, reduce a brand or a company's waste signature? But more importantly, how might we use that to create a profit center in another business? How might we use waste from another industry as an input material? We're seeing a lot of excitement in the world of biochar in particular. We're taking waste petroleum products and turning them into superactivated charcoal for use in capacitor and energy storage. In addition to that, we do a lot of work around supply chain resiliency. So yes, I work in a field known as sustainability. Candidly, I don't think that moniker really does it justice anymore. It's really active resiliency. How might we continue to push business continuity forward? That involves a very flexible and resilient supply chain. We help in that area. We will help clients unearth and develop and invent new manufacturing processes, enhance their facilities. If they have a deeply complex science or chemistry problem, we've got on the order of 1,000 scientists, engineers, and technologists on staff, all helping to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, we just made public a case study we did with a company named Equinor, where we are building a direct air carbon capture system for them on site, full equipment, the full build, etc.
Mm-hmm. Something that's interesting currently is this idea of shifting more manufacturing back to the US. Curious what type of kind of maybe like key events you foresee happening in that area.
Absolutely. Nearshoring is real for a whole host of reasons, some political, some financial, some resiliency, and all valid, regardless of the approach that you take. There's a few ways to do it. Obviously, automation will continue to play an enormous role. How might I bring that production onshore, but with minimal labor inputs needed? We still are a very expensive labor market. In addition to that, how flexible and agile does my manufacturing capability need to be to serve that market? So a concept that we help a number of clients with is this notion of hive manufacturing, where instead of one singular enormous line dedicated to a single product or output, you've got the ability to have sort of a beehive of activity where multiple small machines can be integrated, produce the same output, but also retrofitted and repositioned to be agile. That's just one example. Another example, we do a ton of work around digital twin mechanics. So how might I predict the fallibility or the maintenance needs of existing equipment so I don't have to wait for things to break down before I fix them in advance? That's been a huge area for us, as has been the US's lead in the energy transition and energy generation. We're beginning to see a lot of larger capital projects related to cities and how they become climate resilient. And that encompasses every aspect of infrastructure: energy, water footprint, water use, sewage, population, architecture, design, etc.
You have a really interesting background, as we mentioned initially. You have been an operator, you've been with corporations, you've helped grow corporations. And that's valuable experience to being a consultant to others, other companies. Maybe walk us through a little bit about your professional background.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually consider myself, if you will, a consultant skeptic at heart. When I worked as an operator and an entrepreneur, I had engaged with consultants that candidly weren't likely the best quality, nor did I feel like I got the right output. That's a beautiful way of actually me landing in PA for a very specific reason. I saw something different here, and that is holding true. But to your earlier comment, my previous roles prior to joining PA, I ran sales for a company called Plastic Bank. Super interesting business model, enormously innovative. In essence, we invited poor communities around the world to use plastic garbage as a currency for food, Wi-Fi, medical attention, and school tuition. And we did that work in some of the toughest economies around the world. So Indonesia, the Philippines, Brazil, Haiti, and Egypt. As amazing and mission driven as that work was, in essence, you're helping elevate folks out of poverty and providing a use for this material. I realized early on that despite the amazing work we were doing, we still weren't attacking the problem at its source. Plastic was continuing to grow from a manufacturing standpoint, production was increasing. And then through providence and luck, a close friend of mine introduced me to PA and said, I really think you need to look into their lab and science capabilities. It may help you in your lifelong mission here. Prior to that, I spent a lot of time in the world of marketing, media, and typical business aspects. So by nature, I am a biz development, sales driven individual, revenue mapping, market narrative, all the very traditional biz dev activities you would see in any company that favors growth.
Hmm. Do you find that that prior experience is playing into maybe certain areas when you are actively working with clients, you're helping to advise on maybe market mapping, positioning, business development?
I think it helps boldly in two ways. One, I have a deep respect for what operators need in terms of outcome and impact and the return they're looking for, right? Most companies will say they're not looking for people just to say yes and agree with everything. They are looking to be challenged. In reality, that's a difficult conversation, and my background allows me to do that with the trust and fidelity that I've built with a client or a service provider. The second avenue is I come from a business model where it's value based. And I think at PA, we've broken the traditional, typical consulting model in that it doesn't need to be time and people in seats equals revenue, but clients are willing to pay more money to go faster. And it's almost irrelevant how many people and time we're spending. They have an outcome they are pushing for. I have to say, I've been graced with the ability to run a model like that inside PA Consulting, and I think our clients are deeply benefiting from that.
That's incredible. It'd be interesting to touch on that more. It sounds like it's value based. So maybe the compensation to your firm is, irrespective of what you're saying, like number of consultants and time allocated, but more so like, did you accomplish the objective?
Exactly. And what is the outcome that you would prefer to see? When you have that dialogue with a CEO or a C-suite, you very quickly get to outcomes and you have less of a concern as to, well, how many people is it going to take and how many hours should I need to wait? It becomes how fast can I get there and what do you need to empower yourselves to get there even faster? That's been super unique. Also, we do a lot of work with startups and private equity funds that are funding startups. Having lived through raising finances, I deeply have a huge amount of respect, empathy, and sympathy for those individuals. It definitely allows me to have a much closer engagement with those folks and those needs.
Touching again on the value-based revenue model, it exposes, like, I would see why certain firms would not want to do that because there's some risk related to not accomplishing the outcome and saying, well, we did spend an inordinate amount of time working on this. I know we didn't achieve the objective, but we spent a lot of time here. So how do you manage that
Yeah.
risk?
Well, I think it forces a few things. A, you are correct. It does add risk, but it allows us to really take a look at are the activities we are about to undertake the most valuable and impactful activities we should be taking. And it really allows for a level of accountability that is lacking in a typical time and materials engagement for those of us familiar with those terms in the world of consulting. Second, PA Consulting really, really goes to market as a place of ingenuity and innovation. There's no reason why innovation needs to stop at the business model. We will certainly work with clients who have the right appetite and receptivity to look at alternative ways of doing business.
Hmm. And curious if there's extra incentive too. I mean, there could be a way to, just with any partnership, say like, hey, listen, if we really knock it out of the park for you, would you consider an extra incentive?
Absolutely. We would consider a success fee, some sort of enhanced multiplier if the outcome is really exceptional. We have done projects where if it's a cost saving endeavor, our compensation will come as a percentage of the amount of money we've saved. So there's a beautiful double incentive on both parties that's perfectly aligned. And throughout my career, again, as an operator, the minute you get alignment on incentive and compensation, magic happens. So that's the beauty of the work we do.
Excellent. Presumably, there's competition when you're working or about to start working or pitching a client. There's competition, there's other consulting firms. How would you differentiate PA versus the others that you might be competing against?
Absolutely. What I would suggest is if you're a C-suite and you have a proposed plan and you are looking for a consulting firm to basically give you a stamp of approval so you could get past your board, we are likely not a fit. If you are looking for someone to challenge your ideas, find ways to get you your outcomes even faster with the deep rigor and discipline over 80 years in design, engineering, and science, we will definitely come and be a solid fit. Candidly, my belief is we're a challenger brand, especially in the US, if we're going to be candid and transparent. That is a potent superpower when wielded properly. It allows us to act and behave differently and get you different outcomes. That is a resource I have not seen in my personal experience with some other consulting firms. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for everyone in the market. We do have competitors and collaborators all in the same market view, but I do think that places us separate and apart.
Given that your premise and focus is on ingenuity and engineering, what type of folks do you hire? It sounds like you might look for slightly different skill sets.
We do. I can tell you at our Global Innovation and Tech Center in Cambridge, UK, we have multiple double PhD scientists in every aspect of the field you can imagine. And that crosses biology, chemistry, engineering, medicine, physics, energy generation, environmentalism, sustainability, you name it, we likely have a scientist who is deeply credentialed and published in that field of study. And that comes true to life as we engage on projects.
One aspect that pervades almost every conversation in business is AI. I'm curious as to how much AI is being integrated into the work you do.
We would be remiss if we sort of closed our eyes to the power and potential of AI, both for good and for less optimistic or positive outcomes. At base minimum, we're of the opinion that every business is looking at how might I integrate AI. It's sort of in an exploratory stage today. Is it useful? Can it enhance? Is there a labor benefit somewhere where now our output can be doubled or tripled? Obviously, as a firm, we are doing that for ourselves. When it comes to how we are advising clients, we take a very prescriptive custom look at, yes, AI is available. Which AI is best suited for you? What is the outcome you are seeking to generate? Is this moving beyond the thought experiment? There are certain cases where we are engaged in wargaming, where it is purely a thought experiment with the goal, though, of identifying a future outcome. And that might be, what does our business look like in the next 5 to 10 years? Do we have a business in its current state in the next 10 years? What is the role of AI? Are we overinvested in AI and are hoping it does more than we expect it to in our given industry? So it is not as simple and hyperbolic as we all think. It is nuanced the same way every nascent technology is throughout history.
We're heading into the tail end of the conversation.
Sure.
I have two final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
Sure. I'll give you two, but they come as a pair. My parents, hands down. I'm first generation American. My parents immigrated from Italy without the ability to speak English, without a job ready for them here. I know the immigrant spotlight is bright here in the US right now. I will tell you, they instilled me a sense of character and behaviors and traits that really have allowed me to enjoy life and really bring a purpose and a mission to the work I do.
Question, can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
I'll give you three because I love all three of them. One, Basket Brigade, started by Tony Robbins. They help feed the world's hungry. A growing problem, unfortunately, even though we see massive improvement overall as a globe. The second is a charity called Our Rescue, OUR. They focus on human trafficking, especially around minors. And the final one, I'm a New Yorker at heart, Robin Hood, based in New York. They take an amazing, pragmatic, and data-driven view to charity work. They run it like a business, as it should be. It's one of the best ways I've seen charity get to work and outcomes.
Excellent. We'll put links to those charities in the show notes. Tony, want to thank you again for taking the time. This has been an awesome conversation.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks again.